welcome back to the Vinyl Collective, your weekly journal on the hip hop and R&B landscape. I'm your host, John.
And I'm your co-host, Topper. Welcome back.
How
Welcome back.
How are you, Toppe?
I'm all right, actually. I know it's been, I think people are just idly waiting for April 12th, right? Like, I think people are just kind of like, yeah, just waiting. Okay, cool. When when the world kind of semi-opens back up, we'll kind of get the party started once more. But yeah, I've been all right. Just literally just at the house, work, kicking my ass as usual. But yeah, how about you?
Similar, limbo. That's how it feels. I think
Mm,
the end of March one felt quite significant because you could go out to the park or you could drive somewhere.
mm,
That all felt quite exciting. But yeah, it's the next one, isn't it? It's the pubs. The British
yeah.
British just want our pubs open. Just
Our
wanna
Britain.
just want to go get a Greg's pastry and then go to the pub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think a lot of people even noticed the rule changing at the end of March because people were definitely doing that shit regardless. So fair enough.
That is
I
true.
mean, I mean, you being probably one of the most practiced people I know in terms of this regulations. Yeah, you're like, yes, mate, because finally see like my mates outside, but people are like, I thought we were doing that already. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
What lockdown? What lockdown?
yeah, and I don't think that's what anyone talk about. Yeah, like what lockdown, Johnny? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I've been all right. In terms of music wise, um, listened to a couple of albums that I didn't really get the chance to before when I was doing like my 31 day challenge. So I was
Mhm.
listening to Benny the Butcher, The Plugs I Met 2, with Harry Fraud, which is pretty good stuff.
Not as
Enjoyed
good as
it.
the first.
Not as good as the first for me. I think the features on this first one are just out of
Hmm.
this world. Like you have like Black Thought going off, Pusha T as well. But I will say the features on number two were better than I thought they would be. Like French Montana was better than I thought he would be. So was Rick Ross, to be
Mm.
honest. So I don't think it's bad either. But yeah, that first one is just that is some shit. Shout out to Benny. Also listen to Van Jess. So
Yeah, yeah.
people, yeah, because when people like try to do the whole virtue signaling, right? It's like, hey, you guys are just bigging up Chloe and Haddie. There can be more than one, black girl duo. There's Van Jess, and I was like, okay, cool. Like I've been hearing about them for quite a while. They dropped an album earlier this year. I was like, okay, cool. Like this is my perfect time to kind of get into them. So I was listening to them as well. Couple good songs, but let's not lie to ourselves, boys. That's what I'll say. Let's not lie to ourselves. Like they're not Chloe and Ali, mate. They're not quite there yet. They're not quite there yet. But yeah, that's really
Are
been
they
me,
quite
really.
young in their careers? I don't know them
Yeah, they are
that
quite young
well.
in their careers. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know how many albums deep are, but they're definitely around the same like era as Chloe and Halle.
Mm.
Which everyone grows at their own rate, but they're not. You know, they're. I mean, Beyonce manages Chloe and Halle, so of course they're gonna progress a lot faster. Do you know what I mean? So that's fair. But anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of which, again, if you want,
Ah,
if you've got a keen ear to the podcast, John's groaning already. I think he already knows what's coming. You, the listener, might already know what's coming. It's like a freight
we
train; you
we
can't stop it.
passed we passed the baton on last week. Toppe admirably finished his 31 day March album challenge.
Hmm.
What did you review on the last day? Was it Drunk?
Yeah, it was Drunk by
Thundercat.
Thundercat. Yeah.
Yeah. And then passed the baton over. I've
Hmm.
did a Machiavelli album, did Paraffin, Arm and Hammer. Can't remember the rest. Ready to move
Oh,
on?
you can't remember the rest. So if if you guys don't follow John on Twitter, I think even if you don't, just go to his Twitter, right? Just search John, was it 95, and I don't know, 72, 95, whichever one he feels like that day. Search that, just searching John and searching Lil Baby, right? And just look at the absolute massacre that goes on in those tweets. Like, people act, that's been, people always, I told you, I've been saying this. People always act like my criticism of music is way too harsh and like, oh, like, basically acting like I'm
John's
some
the
sort of
nice
like
guy.
Samuel Cowell. Yeah, but then the way John came for that's the thing. I can't even say I like Lil Baby in it, but it's like that Simpsons meme. It's like,
He's
stop.
already
He's
dead.
already dead. It's like he'd have to go so hard. Not even that. It's like he was like deliberately doing collateral as well. Like he's saying, and that core social guy, fuck him in his opinions as well. He was just going for anyone. Like he just was being so relentless. Like he did not like that album. So yeah, how was it listening to that album,
It
John?
wasn't pretty. The thing is, I know we kind of like joked about it a lot, and a few other people were like, oh, you're gonna hate that. I posted a thing about like Clay Thompson's ear bleeding, being like, I'm ready for tomorrow,
Yeah, you do.
and then it lived up to what I was expecting. Like the first, I think I said for people that haven't seen, the first 5, 6 songs are exactly the same. Like the
Mm.
whole album is just full of 3-minute songs. Like it's just really formulaic. The features are awful. I don't know if people know who 42 Doug is, but probably one of the worst voices I've heard
Fuck no.
on a song. And then in the deluxe, he's on another song. The Lil Wayne feature was terrible. It's all coming out now. 26 episodes in, the mask is off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a bad album. The auto tune in his voice was not pretty either. And with that said, I said it in the final tweet. I was like, if you like the aesthetic and the tone of the voice, the production wasn't great, the features weren't great, the lyrics weren't that great. Like, why you can enjoy life? We said this a lot on the podcast. You can enjoy life, and there are artists that do it all.
Wait, not you saying that the Future, what? So Future's verse was shit as well. Is that what
No,
you're
no, no,
saying?
no. I said the Future collab was the one decent collab.
Oh, okay. It's gonna say
No,
that.
no, no. I said it in my tweet. I was like, the Future
Fair.
collab was decent. But yeah, Lil Wayne did not work on the like slowed down cadence on that song.
It's literally 1 hour 0 minutes. That's so fucking
Yeah,
funny.
20 songs, 3 minutes apiece.
Damn.
Did not appreciate that.
20 songs is a lot to get through as well.
It
Like,
is.
I think that's the same problem I had with the Thundercat album, right? Because it's like 57 minutes, 51. I found it's 50 something minutes, right? But it's 23 tracks. So with that, I was like, okay, like people think like just because an album is short doesn't mean you need like 100 tracks, because sometimes it could just throw you off. Like you're going through a whole range of sounds and ideas, and then a lot of them are like unfinished, or it's like, wait, is this a skit? Is this not? Like, what's the purpose of this? There's not many albums that do it well. I think the only one that comes to mind pretty quickly is Mad Villainy, because that's got like 21 songs, but it's like 40 something minutes. But it works. It really works. But not many albums can do that. There's only so much ideas and sounds, fleshed out sounds and fleshed out songs that you can really put within a certain amount of time. That's why a lot of songs are 2.5, 3 minutes, because people like the third verse. Not many people can get everything done in 2 verses or whatever. So yeah, but to hear an hour of Lil Baby, and I'm not a fan of the auto-tune either. I'm not gonna put myself through that. Like, I think you just wanted to test it. You wanted to see if you were cool with the kids. Like, yeah, I can embrace the new school as well.
I think because there's no point just like sitting on my like purist hip hop high horse saying, "Oh, look at this! Look at the commoners down there listening to like." We said it before, NBA YoungBoy.
Yeah.
But like, I had to actually like spend some time, because I listened to the Lil Uzi Vert albums as well. Eternal Atake. I didn't buy into that whole concept at all. I thought it was a pretty half-assed attempt to do a concept. But yeah.
Yeah, gosh. I mean,
H.E.R.
any that you've liked so far? How many days is it then now?
The Sunderson album, like who was it? Brent Fires. Yeah, that was decent. There were some good songs on that. I felt like a lot of the songs just kind of like meander, and they don't really have a particular direction that he's going in, because his voice is like that, right? Like it just trails off, and he does the whole like Weekend like House of Balloons falsetto thing. Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a little bit overrated, mate. Not even a little bit. I think he's
there's some good songs on it.
Overrated. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
But he's not like stormed the scene.
He kind of has though.
Has he?
Yeah, people love Brent Fires. They really do.
That was 2017 though, and he had an album. What was it? 2 years ago or a year ago?
He did. Yeah, I think a year ago or so.
I didn't hear many people talk about that.
Okay, fair. I think I saw quite a few people, but I don't know what the hype is right now for him.
Yeah.
But people did love off that like run, because he had them Sunderstand. He had another project at the time
With them. With Sonder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with Sonder. So people were like, oh, like they love this guy, and I was like, he's okay. Like he did come across quite amateurish to me, which is no problem because you're
No,
just starting out, but you're not, you're not God's gift just yet.
no.
Let's take time. To
But
be
the
honest.
Machiavelli was good. Arm and
Yeah.
Hammer, Paraffin. He's just the two guys are Lucid and Billy
Mm,
Woods are just part of that whole like lyrical tradition of just like you need to have a dictionary next to you when you're
yeah.
listening to these songs. Like they'll reference like a
Mm.
random like 18th century political figure, and you're like, who is this guy? Who's Thomas Jefferson? Oh, I need to look it
Mm,
up. Like, yeah,
mm.
yeah.
Enjoyed it? No?
It's a lot of hard work. I completely underestimated the work that you were putting in. Um,
It is. It is
you
quite a
have to
lot.
like, I'll listen
Mm,
like once during the day, like during work, and just make a few notes here and there, and then after work or in the evening, I'll try and listen at least one or two more times.
yeah.
Um, but it
Yeah.
is tough to say something about like the album as a whole, something about the production, and then
Mm.
comment on a couple of the songs as well. It's it's work to do that every day.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I
Yeah.
think and that's what kind of not pissed me off in it, but it's like people think like I heard listen to the album once and just thought, right, let's crack out the tweets. Like, no, like I had a very rigorous writing process. So, I don't need to get into it, but like my process of listening to the albums was quite rigorous because
Mm.
obviously you only have a day, right? And for me, I want to soak in as much of the album as I physically can
Mm-hmm.
in that day. So that's what I'm living, breathing, eating. Like in the shower, I'm listening to the album. When I go on my walk, I'm listening to the album. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I'm writing these things, I think people think, oh, like, oh, you can't say that. Oh, your opinion will change over time. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, actually, it's actually a far opinion. Like, just because it's not it's like the opinions that people agreed with, no one ever second guessed whether it was, premature or not. But the ones they didn't like, it's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about or whatever. Like, and we'll talk about some of them in future episodes. But yeah, it was just like whatever, mate. But yeah, no, it does take time, and I know the exercise was to write one tweet every day about a song,
It's
and I
turned
was,
turned
yeah,
into 4 tweets about an album.
yeah. I mean, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it my own way, innit? Like, fuck these guys, like because they can only do one tweet because they don't have the range, mate. So I was like, fuck it, let me just do a whole mini album review because I feel like I can do it, and pulled it out. So
stay
hope it goes
stay
well, mate.
tuned.
Stay strong, my friend. Stay strong.
Got a couple of good ones coming up. I've decided to do different genres as well, so that
Mm,
was that's gonna stretch me. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, let's get into music that's gone on the last week. Freddie Gibbs dropped a new song,
Yes, good sample.
sampled a Nas song, which good sport given that he lost out on the Grammy to Nas.
Oh
Just
yes, I
seems
didn't
like
even think about that. I didn't
the
even think
timing
about
is
that.
definitely intentional. And I think
Yes,
he said something like, if you're going to lose a Grammy and you lose it to Nas, then that's like fine by me.
yeah. Which
Um,
is it's just
yeah,
fair. Yeah,
totally
yeah. I
true.
don't get this whole rabbit thing he's going by these days. I don't know where that
I
came
don't know
from.
what that is either. He's got it on his like Twitter handle, hasn't he?
Yeah, and it's like he went from like Freddie
He's a
Kane.
playboy. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, he went from like Freddie Kane to Skinny Surge,
Yeah,
and then now he's Big Boss Rabbit, and it's like, okay, whatever, like
I
whatever.
hate that.
Like, yeah, I don't care about the monikers, but I care about the songs, and the song is good because obviously that's a big sample you're using, right? Like everyone knows that's
Yeah.
Nas, and there's only one. The only other person I know who's used that sample is J. Cole on a
Mm,
song called "I'm the Man" on the Come Up, his mixtape. So
yeah.
it's not the first time someone's used that beat, and both of them did it justice. So I was like, okay, he's gonna go in, and
Mm,
I think with Freddie Gibbs, when someone's just figured out rap,
yeah.
I think that's just him. I do genuinely just think he's figured it out because he hasn't missed in at least 5 years. Maybe more. Like he hasn't missed for a very long time. Like he's doing Anderson Park numbers right now. It just seems like any verse, any beat, any song, any topic, he can do it. He
Yeah.
just can't. He can't fail. He's never gonna be like, ugh, he sounded so uncomfortable and that. Like it just doesn't happen at this point.
It's just that effortless flow. And
Yeah.
we talked about this the other day. We were having a conversation about rap, like a male rapping voice. And
Yes.
like there are a handful of artists who
Mhm.
have just the voice for rap. And like Freddie Gibbs is one of them.
100%.
Yeah.
Like absolutely. Like
you said J-Rock. I think we said Black Thought, Tupac,
Biggie,
and Biggie.
Yeah. Like it's just that it's the flow mixed with like the sound and the
bit
cadence.
Of like gravel to the voice as well.
Yeah, and he just demands your attention every time. Every time. Like it's just I can't wait. It feels like he's building up for an album, because that song with Schoolboy Q as well, that shit's fire. Like I'm not giving up on Schoolboy just yet. I'm not giving up on him just yet. I think he's still got it in him. So that song was nice. And also the song with Big Sean and Hit Boy. Oh, Jesus Christ. So if this is all going on an album, I am very excited for this album. And if he does it again, another year,
because he's been on fire for the last few years.
We got to start having some serious conversations about where he ranks in hip hop, because this is ridiculous. The guy hasn't stopped since.
It's like 2016, because he had his solo, then he had, what was it, Fetty, then he had Bandana, then he had Alfredo.
Yeah.
And even before that, he had the 2 solo albums, didn't we?
Yeah, because Fetty and Freddie came out the same year, I think, and then he had You Only Live Twice, and then he had the other one, then he had the other one, the one with like the dark silhouette. Like he hasn't stopped. He has not stopped. So if he comes out with an album now and it's good, sorry, he's in that league. He's in that top bracket. Like, no doubt in my mind. No doubt. He's already there in my mind. But in terms of like the consensus,
another solo one.
Yeah, if he comes out with another solo one, it has to be the consensus. It has to be the consensus. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Agreed.
Yeah, like it's ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, rumors of not rumors. It's been established. Kanye West documentary. How do you feel about this? Okay. Being sold to Netflix for $31 million, like the rights.
Oh, this is for the College Dropout, right?
I think it's that. Yeah.
I think, to me, I feel like that's being undersold a little bit, because an album that's probably generated way more than 30 mil.
Was it College Dropout? I thought it was just
I think it's from the College Dropout onwards, isn't it? It's like
maybe onwards, because I saw some people being like, we just need to see the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy sessions. We just need clips of that. Yeah. Yeah,
so it's from like College Dropout all the way till probably quite recently, right? Yeah. And I think for someone, that seems too cheap. Like, they've given comedians who aren't funny, well, don't name them, comedians who aren't funny, bigger deals on Netflix. So I don't understand why one of the biggest rappers in existence, with one of the most ridiculous discographies in existence, is selling the behind the scenes for 30 mil. That doesn't sound like that makes sense to me. Like, even The Last Dance was like, what?
Sounds like he doesn't have much of a hand in it, if that's the money you're talking about.
Which sounds crazy, because who owns the rights to it then? Is it Rockefeller?
I don't know.
Because that's the thing, like, I feel like Kanye wouldn't. I feel like Kanye being Kanye wouldn't sell all of that information
for less than like a couple $100 million.
Yeah, like, I think because even no shade, right? But you know that show, The Get Down, that Nas helped make, that was $100 million when it came out, the most expensive show of all time at the time, right? And obviously it flopped. So if you're willing to put $100 million behind The Get Down, surely 150 M's for Kanye West behind the scenes. Wow, I'm definitely taking that.
Yeah,
everyone's gonna watch that. Or maybe people are so off Kanye they wouldn't, but I can't see that to be the case. Because this is also old Kanye, and it's still albums.
It'd be like The Last Dance level popularity.
It should.
If they did it right, it should be. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm very intrigued to see this. Because I think it was the making of Late Registration, and he did something in London as well. Like, some of the recordings,
Abbey Road,
like, when he's doing the live instrument, like, that shit was crazy. That's insane. Like, so if I had a whole like docu-series about that, man, who doesn't want to see that? Who doesn't want to see that? That's so 30. I don't know. What do you think about it? Are you stoked for this?
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, the fact that it doesn't seem huge news. Like, there's just like a few pieces here and there out about it, and yeah, I get what you mean about the money. 30 mil does make you wonder what the quality of it is. But I mean, if Netflix is doing it, it's got to be big.
Yeah, like, of course. And the thing, if they have footage for like from
I'm
then till
excited. I'm
recently.
excited to see it.
Yeah, they have
I
footage of
love like
last. Yeah, go on.
studio footage and like
Yes.
producers and artists like in the studio reacting to like beats and stuff. I fucking love that
Yeah,
stuff. So
natural conversations and all of
yeah,
that stuff. Yeah, no, I really like that stuff as well. And I think if we're talking about like 10, 15 years worth of footage, surely there's enough there to make something really good. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
with the Last Dance, they did like different time lapses and all that times. And do you know what I mean? Like they had a way to do it, even though they didn't have all the footage of every single game in the final season of the Chicago Bulls whilst he was there. They had stuff from when he got drafted.
yeah.
When other people got drafted, they kind of padded it out. So there's no way they have like 20 years of like film and they can't whittle that down into like an amazing series. For 30 mil, that sounds like a steal. Netflix are going to make that money back for sure. No doubt in my mind. Yeah, like easily. So yeah, very strange. Very strange to me. But we'll have to see how it goes. Don't know if there's any other music news really. I haven't heard anything that's been particularly interesting.
In the last week, no.
No. Obviously,
Self
prayers up for
included.
DMX, obviously,
Yeah.
of course. But yeah, apart from like music wise, nah, haven't heard anything really. So yeah, it's been a drought. It's been a drought.
Been a quiet one.
Yeah.
But in a drought, what do you have to do? I don't know. I don't have the rest of that analogy.
I
Let's just talk
somewhere.
about our Spotlight series artist.
Yeah, go ahead.
This week, yeah, we had Goya Gumbani, who, yeah, if you have kind of seen our social media stuff, he was born in New York, came to London in his teen years, and yes, part of that kind of like very minimalist, like lyrically minimalist and like looped instrumental, like we don't want to say overused underground, but like part of that like New York scene,
Yeah.
who are like pretty tight knit, a lot of like self production, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When did you come to hear him?
I came to hear him when we were preparing for this, actually.
That was a
So
setup. You were supposed to say John introduced me to him.
I mean, John's ego needs inflating now and then, so yeah. No. Yeah, John introduced me to him. So obviously we're not strangers to that kind of whole New York scene. So if you are a follower of L Sweatshirt's career, right? So he's kind of taken a shift in like the way he's been rapping over the last few years. So he's gone from like just aggressive mood rap to, short brevity, like really short like lyricism, looping the same thing over and over again. So there's like a focus on that. I feel like you want to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, hasn't he always kind of done that with like Chum and all those kind of early songs? They were all pretty like minimalist, like industrial sounding songs.
He has, but he never had a whole album of it. So when I listen to I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside, songs like Mantra, songs like Grief, songs like DNA, he's
definitely taken it and like gone to the extreme. Yeah,
exactly. So I think with that style, he's now taken and gone to the extreme. And obviously he's not the first person to do that, but I think he's the person that most people kind of recognize to do that. But there's a whole scene, as John mentioned, that kind of follow that pattern that he's kind of like adopted in a sense. So there's like a rapper called Mike, which I think featured on either that horrible EP that L dropped after or some rap songs, one of the two. He's been on one of those projects. And obviously Goya Gumbani is part of that. So he kind of follows that same style where he's saying a lot in short lyricism. So I think there was one song, it was Blase, when he's like sister passed, something like my sister passed, something about his mother, like in one line. I was like, fuck. Like he said, it's very potent, and when you get it right, it's very potent. You have to get it right though. That's why a lot of people don't do it, because a lot of people don't have the skill to kind of say so much in a short amount of words. It's very hard to do that, and he kind of fits that mold. So yeah, that's kind of what that's. So when I heard him, he sounded familiar already, instead of like, oh, like this is crazy, I've heard anything like this. So yeah, it was quite easy to kind of like get into him.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting as well that he's like made London his home.
Yeah, like, very strange.
Yeah, interesting to see like how, because he's released a lot of projects in the last few years, but to see whether like any of like the London UK scene kind of influences his work, or even if you get a lot of like, if you get a kind of London scene similar to that in style.
I mean, it will never happen. it will never happen. I'll tell you that for sure.
Maybe
In terms of
maybe there'll just be an expat community that will grow.
maybe
Expat Americans here. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be a wise decision because that country's on fire. But yeah, I mean, he's worked with UK people before, right? So he's done like whole projects with who was it, Ragofoot, who is, from what I can hear, is definitely British. So that's album Children of Ra. He's dropped like 5 projects over the last year. The guy has been working and I think a lot of those albums are British people. So I guess he came here during his formative years. I don't know specifically what year he came, but obviously if you've kind of grown up from somewhere from like 14, 15, 16 and you're here, you know, onwards when you're like 25, 26, that is your home in a sense, right? Like obviously you weren't born.
So he came when he was 15, so a decade ago.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So like same way like you can have like your first family home, then you guys move and then that's your home. You can't just be like, oh, my first family home was my home. Like you moved, you know. You get people are like that though. They're like, oh, I'm from Catford, and it's like, you live in Kent, mate. Like you let that go. Like let that go. Like that's past, mate. You gotta let that go. Like you're a Kent person now. Go enjoy the fields. Like do you know what I mean? But yeah, so I do like the fact that he's embraced kind of UK culture. He's embraced kind of working with UK people. A lot of his songs are related to areas in the UK, so like Brixton, Hither Green, Catford, you know, very much a South Londoner. So no, I like that. But then he also has that US sound, which obviously it's not his fault. That's his accent. So I think he's quite interesting, and I think I can see see people working with him, but few and far between for sure.
Yeah,
few and far between.
Agreed. Someone to watch out for, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, let's just talk brief about some of the songs that we picked for the Spotlight series. So Blase was the song I was referring to before. So he's kind of talking about, I kind of like how he's talking about the old Blase is the old Blase. So I was like, what does he mean by that? But basically, he's basically trying to say, because he used to, you know, typical rapper, used to sell drugs and all that stuff. And, you know, he's not scared of like getting caught, you know, selling drugs anymore. All the fears that come from that is you know, that the old Blase is the old Blase. It's like he's so past being scared of getting caught of doing all the stuff or the shit that comes from it. It's like whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I like themes like that. I mean, and then the line I was talking about before, where he's like, what's it called? Sister in the sky, life's changed for her mother. That says so much in one line, and it's like I like stuff like that. He's very smooth with it as well. What did you think about the other song? I think what's the point?
Yeah, we had what's the prize?
What's the prize? Sorry, what's the prize?
Was it Thing for Risk?
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked those two. Came off his solo EP, right? H.E.R. Presents. I like that. I really liked the production on some of those songs. I think Thing for Risk might have been the one that had it's kind of like pan flutes, or like it had some kind of like wind instruments on it. And yeah, I think there's something that, like you mentioned, Mike and like Medane and people in that kind of like group, they do really well, like use kind of unusual instruments in their production, and it just works when it's like looped. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think the beats on H.E.R. Presents were really, really good. It was such a short one. It was like 17, 18 minutes or something.
Really short. A lot of these projects are as well, for sure.
But I mean, when you're putting out the amount of music that he is, then you can't be hitting us with like 40-minute EPs.
I think what I like about him as well is that he's not given like the same subject matter on each project. He's actually talking about different stuff every time. That's very like, that is not easy. Like I know I shit on an artist for dropping like 100 million EPs, but the fact that he's doing like he's collaborating on almost every single one, right? And he's like doing a whole different thing. So Children of Ra, he's talking about like black ancestry, black history, and then you've got Truth Be Sold when he's talking about like more about London and
money,
you know, the like
and
money economics. Like he's actually, you know, he's got some flavor to him. So like, no, like and surprisingly so, I think when it comes to him and L, obviously L is a superior rapper, let's not get twisted, but in terms of like just like the listening quality, he is very easy to listen to, even though he is part of that like melancholy like, you know, moody rap. So I think there's I'm kind of onto him. I want to see where he goes from here, because he definitely gets piqued my interest for sure. And the fact that he's British as well, like the potential in terms of working with artists is quite high if it ever happens. So I'm excited.
We'll see. But yeah, you can obviously find our songs on our Spotlight Series playlist on Spotify. You can, send us some recommendations if you want, or if you take an issue with John's little baby stance, then give us an email, and you can email us at vinylcollectivepod@gmail.com. You can obviously tweet us, TVC Pod, or you can send us a message on Instagram at the Vinyl Collective Pod. We're everywhere, basically.
Pretty much. SoundCloud is coming soon. I know I keep saying this, but now I'm basically telling myself to do it.
It's on its way.
So it's on its way. I feel like we're missing out on the market with SoundCloud. So yeah, I gotta get that going. But it will come. Shout out to you guys though for staying with us. But it will come very soon.
And yeah, we'll be back after a very short break.
Right, we are back, and this week we have one thing about the Vinyl Collective, right? Like we have a good mix of things, right? So we'll have like an interview here and there, and then we'll do like an album review. But we're very thematical as well. We like looking at things across time and like, okay, how is that kind of patched up over time? So this week we're gonna have an R&B episode. I can't remember the last time we had an R&B episode, to be honest. It's been a while.
Oof, it's been a minute.
I think. Yeah. So we thought, okay, let's our R&B fans there, probably like the 23% of females that listen to this.
Hotels, that was it. That was our
Hotels.
last R&B.
Damn, how long ago was that now?
That was like end of maybe February.
Really?
Maybe like 6-7 weeks ago.
Was it that long ago? Damn.
Do you think? It was a little bit ago. It was episode 19.
Wow, it really was.
7 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay, fair enough. Time really does fly. Yeah. So back on our R&B shit. I think it's quite an interesting topic. I haven't seen many people really attack this, but I think it's one that a lot of people will be interested in nonetheless. So we're gonna look at basically it kind of like a random shooting star or star. You might not be a star to you. It could be anything else. Could be like a random bird shitting from the sky. Could be could be it could be whatever you want it to be. It's just a random event occurs in time, and from that, one thing I learned, I think I can't remember where the quote is from, but change isn't gradual, it comes randomly. Like in terms of innovation isn't some sort of gradual curve. There's some random shot that you couldn't have predicted, and then it continues up from there. I can't remember who gave that quote, but someone famous. I just can't remember. So yeah, so similar to that, we have the kind of the age of neo-R&B / neo-soul that's kind of come about over the last 4 or so years, that kind of came out of nowhere, really. So yeah, a lot of artists kind of burst from that, and that's kind of really just defined who we listen to right now when we talk about R&B and soul. And yeah, I think first and foremost, let's fuck it, let's just get straight into it. So first and foremost, so I know R&B is not like your number one genre. It's probably more the hip hop and such. But
yeah,
when it came to R&B, like when did you actually kind of fully get into R&B, John?
That was a good question. I think it must have been like, because I remember Black Messiah coming out, and I was so ready for that, which was
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
So it must have been. Oof. I mean, I always enjoyed like soul music, because I remember my brother having some like Otis Redding albums and things like that, and I really loved like old like 60s 70s soul music. So I think I always had a bit of an ear for like enjoying like the slower jams. Not a name of one of my playlists, don't worry. So yeah, I always kind of appreciated it, but I think probably maybe around 2013, 2014, like starting uni, I started kind of getting into the like R&B. Yeah. And I mean, like the state of like, what is your take on like the state of R&B at that time? Like, were you like in the tens? The early tens.
Yeah, that's really weird, right? So first and foremost, so we talk about early tens, right? So this is me like finishing up in secondary school, going into college, and obviously in secondary school, well, more particularly the secondary school that I went to, it wasn't really cool to kind of listen to Fall by Beyonce or listen to Adele or whatever. So people acted like they didn't listen to R&B like that. But some people did, and some people really enjoyed it. Like I think for me, because of maybe my environment or sorts, I kind of toned it down. I was actually, I was always more of a hip hop lover, but I definitely could have gone into it more at that time. I think I just kind of thought, oh, that's not for me, right? Like, why would I care about that? But in terms of, weirdly enough, I think the first time I really took in R&B, if you really want to call it that, was So Far Gone by Drake, because this is a guy he had a lot of singing songs that I really enjoyed, like full on singing songs. So, and obviously he does rap, but he had a lot of songs where he was singing. So I think that's when I was like, okay, cool. Like I really enjoy this. It was just a different take on the genre, because I think one thing about R&B, and I think again, I think someone, whoever's listening to this, who can actually kind of give some information on this, will be quite interesting, because it's kind of weird to think what was R&B before it was now. Because when I think of R&B before where it is now, I think Trey Songz, Chris Brown,
Jeremiah.
Jeremiah. Do you know what I mean? But then that's it, really. Like it wasn't like a whole like well-developed scene where there was like.
Do you not think?
Yeah.
What era are you talking?
I'm talking early 10s.
Early 10s, yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't a thing where like, oh yeah, there's a shit ton of R&B artists, and there's even like some underground ones that everyone listens to. But then, yeah, I just didn't really get that vibe. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm similar. And again, like you say, someone may come and completely school us. But my impression of like the early 10s was, save a few artists, it felt like there was the dregs of the like early 2000s scene still releasing a bit of music here and there. It didn't feel like there was like a young growing movement at that time.
Yes.
Like there was in other genres. It didn't feel like R&B had that at that time. Because obviously, you had The Weeknd, you had a few exceptions, right? The Weeknd with his like
trilogy.
With the trilogy, the mixtapes, even to an extent Kissland, right? Which was his first album. A lot of people forget that. They forget like that didn't happen. Kissland was his first studio album. Janae was around at that point.
Yeah, she worked with Drake as well. Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, Trey Songz. But it didn't feel like, it felt like there was just like Usher, Neo, and a few of those who had like been huge stars in the 2000s, and they were still releasing music every couple of years.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like I don't think there was, outside of the old guards, right? So like maybe even Mario, but even then I thought that was 2000s. So yeah. I think when talking about the 10s, I think it really was just Chris Brown. Really, like, because obviously this is Chris Brown's prime, right? Like everyone was on his dick like crazy. So it was Chris Brown. It was some of Jeremiah. Jeremiah was pretty big. Fair. Usher. I mean, not Usher. Trey Songz is pretty big at this point, so fair enough. But that's the thing. It's a handful though. Janae wasn't as big, nearly as big as she was a few years after this. Like
you had kind of like The Dream.
10s, yes, The Dream. But then even with R&B artists, for me, I feel like their peaks came through, because I still very aware of the music scene. I've always been a fan of music, right? So if an artist is doing really well, like for example, this is random, right? But when Krept and Conan were like blowing up in their first mixtape, I was very much aware of that. I just didn't give a fuck because I didn't care about that. So I was always very aware. But when it came to R&B, I felt like it was when they were featuring with rappers like Rick Ross on like Maybach Music or something like that. That's when everyone was talking about them, and then no one ever said, "Oh my gosh, have you listened to The Dream album?" It just never happened. It never happened,
No, I agree.
which was quite weird. So maybe it was a thing where R&B just didn't cater to our age at the time, which I think is definitely true. But I think the whole state, so let's say 20-year-olds 10 years ago, I don't know, what was it like then? I don't think there was a lot going on.
Alicia Keys, another name before we forget.
I mean, you really want to go there?
Go on, what are you going to say?
I mean, Alicia Keys fell off a mountaintop. I don't know what time, but I think at this point people, because when did Diary of Alicia Keys come out? That was a while ago. I think it was before this time. I think by the third album, I don't think people were hot on her the same way. She definitely wasn't. Yeah.
Element of Freedom was 2009.
Yeah.
Girl on Fire, I thought she was quite popular at that point, 2012.
Okay, fair. I think the last but no, I don't know if that's true because okay, she was on Empire State of Mind. That's
Yeah.
2009.
Mm-hmm.
What does she really do notable in the tens? In the tens, like a single, like oh yeah, everyone loved that. I don't know if she has one. I don't think someone give us that
Silence.
answer. I don't think that's the case, innit? Obviously, shout out to Alicia Keys for her early work, innit? But I think by this time she was not done out, innit? But people were like, oof, I don't know about this anymore.
Yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough.
and mostly by the mid tens, that was it. That was it. It was done for her. So yeah, so I kind of feel like actually I think one person that obviously needs to be mentioned, right, when we're talking about neo soul or neo R&B is of course Erykah Badu, right? Because Erykah Badu is someone who's kind of had that. She kind of made her own genre in a sense from her very first album or second album. So she's always been very soulful, But she was the only person that I was aware of who really kind of worked with all types of sounds and was very experimental with the sounds that she used every single album without fail. Like no two of her albums sound the same. And yeah, like she was one of the first people to kind of like, it was kind of, obviously it's that Electric Lady kind of runoff, you know, that influence, because like you also had D'Angelo who's been very experimental with soul as well. But obviously Erykah Badu was one of the forefathers of that as well. And I think that definitely pulled in. So I think it was 2011 was her last studio album, The New America. Yeah, part 2. And obviously that album, if you listen to a lot of these R&B albums today, that is a direct influence, whether they know it or not. But that is a direct influence. Like the ethereal beats, the changing pick tones, and all of that. Like the vulnerability, like even the way R&B people and not even R&B, like soul singers and R&B singers, the way they were singing and the subject matters they were singing on was changing.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just like, girl, you're breaking my heart, let's figure it out. It wasn't that as much anymore. Like that dominated the thousands and some of the 90s, but now it's like it's becoming more, I don't know what the word is, but it's definitely more relatable. Like, oh, like, you know, I'm just someone in my 20 somethings kind of thing. And also we're gonna get to SZA. She's definitely coming up in this episode. But it definitely starts going that direction. But it's very weird that happened in 2011, but then we move on to 2016, 2017, where it's like boom, all this started happening. So so why do you think it kind of took so long for this to kind of progression to kind of like move forward?
I don't know. It's a question I've thought about a lot. Like since we decided to do this episode, it's one of those like, what happened?
Yeah.
What was in the water in 2016, like that led to this series of events? And even like, I guess before we get there, we obviously mentioned a lot of things like R&B, neo R&B, alternative R&B, soul, neo soul. Like if we just spend a couple of minutes like trying to define it, right? Like what do you see first of all is like the difference between neo soul and R&B, like contemporary R&B?
I think that is a good question, because I think people use them quite interchangeably these 100%. Days, right? Yeah, and they're not the same thing. So I think it's best to give a motivational example. I sound very mathematical right now, but it's true. So last week we did Erin Allen Kane as our spotlight artist. That's neo soul through and through. That is not R&B. It's not R&B. Someone like Ari Lennox, that's neo R&B. That's the difference. And you can hear it, right? And I think the best way to kind of think about it is the singing is not that much different and the subject matter is not that different. It's the production. So neo soul singers, the soul comes from minimalist production. The soul comes from their voice. Like it's soul, with soul, it's minimal production or like very slow, lo-fi groovy production, and it's just the singing. Do you know what I mean? Like Sade, that's soul. With R&B, the production is way more prominent. So if you think of H.E.R, you think of SZA, and so it's, you know, hence the term rhythm and blues. So that's why R&B artists can work so interchangeably with hip hop artists because it's the same kind of principles. Do you know what I mean? It's still about staying on tempo. It's still about, something a bit more up tempo than just your voice and singing. And I think soul is more about singing, and it's more about crescendos and ballads and all of that. That's soul to me.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, I agree. It's an interesting question because I've tried to read articles on it in the last few weeks and like have not found a single one that's given a good explanation. So R&B, like I know we're talking about R&B as like a separate genre, but like R&B, just a bit of history for people, was like a term coined in like 1948, right? And at that time, music made by, if we're using like the American example, music made by Black Americans was called race music. That was what it was called at the time. It then changed to sepia records. Don't know why that was. And then they used this term rhythm blues, R&B, to encompass all music, whether it was soul, whatever it was. Doesn't matter if it was pop. Doesn't matter if it was Black Americans making like, I don't know, maybe like a bit of rock music or something. Like it came under R&B, right? Which doesn't make any sense. And obviously we've had conversations where we talked about like the Grammys. Why is it, urban music or like genres like that are just synonyms for Black, right? So soul, I guess my understanding of it is gospel music that's secular, like it's not religious, right?
That's a good way to describe it, actually.
So it's like non-religious gospel music. It's a lot of like, I guess like drawn out songs. It's a lot of jazz inspired instrumentals, and the voice and the vocals. There's a lot of like natural manipulation of your voice, right? Because we see that with Lauryn Hill, we see that with D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, Sade. There's a lot of like just natural, like nothing's been like manipulated with instruments or like any kind of like after effects. So I guess that's my understanding of soul. And neo soul is from the 90s onwards. That's kind of how I see it, because soul of the 70s and 60s was soul, and neo soul is just the natural kind of like evolution of it. R&B feels like a bit of a tricky one, right? Because like late 2000s, early 2010s, with people like The Weeknd coming along, I felt like there was that like alternative R&B, right? Where people are like, what is this? It's so strange. But I feel like, I don't know what an appropriate term is for it, because you're naturally going to get artists who are influenced by, I mean, with The Weeknd, it was influenced probably by a bit of electronic and a bit of like kind of, I don't know what the word is, like psychedelic pop. I don't know, that he brought into like that House of Balloons era. And then you've got other artists that are pulling in more jazz influences into their music, and other artists that are pulling in, I don't know, maybe it'll be like trap or whatever it will be next.
Or electronic. So, I mean, we call FK Twigs is the king of, neo-R&B. So it's like, but then I think it's kind of easy to be like, R&B is everything that's just not soul. But I think maybe it also has to deal with subject matter. R&B normally deals with, because blues as well, isn't it? So it normally deals with relationships, love, turmoil. Whereas soul doesn't always have to tie into those narratives, I don't think.
No.
So I think obviously subject matter matters here as well. Because almost every R&B song is to do with love or some sort of relation to someone. So I think that has to be included as well. It's a hard topic these days.
Yeah. Whereas obviously like soul traditionally is very outward looking as well.
It is. And a lot of soul could be political. It could be anything really. It doesn't necessarily have to say that. Because then you wouldn't call like Marvin Gaye What's Going On R&B. You wouldn't, but you would call, maybe you would call Sexual Healing R&B, maybe. You could. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference.
It's just the definitions are the difficult ones, because like neo R&B just sounds like, I don't like the phrase at all.
It's definitely an abused term. I'll say that for sure. It's definitely an abused term. No doubt about that.
And it's
Yeah.
good to like have the conversation where you like work out artists that people think are soul artists, or they're neo soul. You're like, they're not. They're an R&B singer, like Drake's on their album.
Like that's the thing. No one ever say, "Oh yeah, Drake's really dabbing into this neo soul." Like he just doesn't do that. Like it's just impossible.
Stop it.
Do you know what I mean? Like you can tell. I think there is a distinction. I think the neo comes from production. I will say that because the production that these guys are singing off now is very much in line with hip hop in a way it never used to be, and I think that's what makes it neo. Do you know what I mean? And again, like I said, Erykah Badu has been doing this for a while, but I think 2011 was when it was like full display. Like this is completely different, and it is like, what took people so long? Was it just not a thing? And I think as much as you may have your reservations about him, John, Drake is also a big like benefactor or big like cause of this movement. Because,
I agree.
100%, because he was that guy who popularized singing and rapping. Even if it wasn't great singing, like he was that guy, and the production, he was rapping on hip hop, he was singing on hip hop beats.
Yeah,
and people weren't doing that before him in 2009. And again, it takes so long, but I think because even though people love Drake doing it now, I think maybe some of the younger people might not know, but it took a while for him to get accepted. Because it took a long time. Like, even after Take Care, people were like, I don't... Like, Marvin's Room, like, people were like, I don't know. Like, so it took a long time. So I think it was... So maybe that's the thing as well. I think people saw Drake and it's like, Drake was a meme. Like, when he dropped headlines, or like, what's he talking about? Catching a body? Like, he's a singer. Like, he's talking about, like, like, it just wasn't a thing. So I think that also is a factor as well, I think. Because it took so long for people to be like, okay... we get it and we like it. Like, it took a long time for people to get to that point. So maybe that's a factor as well.
Yeah, I agree. And just to touch on that definition thing one last time, for me, I enjoy contemporary R&B. I enjoy the phrase because it encompasses all of the different directions that people can take it. Yeah. Because as we've said, The Weeknd in one direction, he's kind of gone in another direction now, right? But like, even then you had like Bruno Mars, which was kind of like R&B and funk. Right.
Yeah.
And that's been his whole thing. So I feel like contemporary R&B kind of it does what it says on the tin because it's contemporary. It's taking on new genres like trap.
Yeah.
And whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then contemporary and neo, aren't they almost the same? Isn't that semantics, John? Aren't they almost the same thing?
It's all semantics, isn't it? Yeah. But seeing as neo soul is caught on. And it sounds great. I don't like neo-R&B. I'm not a fan of that. Just because I feel like because of the phrasing of it, people would then just use them.
Interchangeably.
Too much.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. That's fair. That's fair. But I mean, also we kind of teased it for the past, I don't know how many minutes we've been talking, but obviously we're talking about 2016, 2017. But obviously here we are, boom, like a shit ton of R&B artists. But who was the first that really kind of took your fancy? Like, oh, actually, this person's a good singer. I actually want to listen to a whole album of this. Like, who was that guy? Who was that guy or woman for you?
Interesting.
Actually, I already know the answer. It was 2088. Now it's 2015.
Disgusting. Unfortunately, I'm never going to live this down. I loved it at the time. Absolutely loved it.
No shade.
Haven't listened to it since maybe 2018. Enjoyed that at the time. 2016, 2017. That time I was already I was listening to a lot of Xavier Omar, a lot at that time. Okay. I think I was really into Division and Majid Jordan.
Oh yeah, he was big back then.
Yeah. I'm not going to reel off our whole list because that will spoil the surprise. But yeah, those were kind of the artists that I was really listening to before. Janae a lot as well.
Fair.
Yeah, and kind of the internet as well. They released in 2015, didn't they? Ego Death.
Yes.
So I was like big into them, and they were again similar to. They were kind of what I would have thought of as like alternative or like contemporary R&B.
Yeah.
Because there were elements of, kind of different genres in their music.
Yeah.
But what about you? When were you kind of? I guess an interesting question is when were you aware that 2016, 2017 was so like prolific.
I think that's what's so interesting about music and looking at music and like trends over time. Because it was only until maybe 2019, no, not even 2019. It was probably like 2020. I was like, holy shit! All the R&B artists we listen to now came around at the same time. Like, how often does that happen? Like, we talk about the 90s, right? And there's all these amazing rappers that will go on to have like literally etched in history discographies at the same time. You're like, what the fuck? Like, how does that happen? And usually that happens when a genre is in its juvenile phase. Like, you know, it's not young anymore. It's fully like, you know, it's got to a level of maturity, and now like the innovation's at its peak. Similar with UK hip hop, right? Where it's that where it kind of is right now. But with with this, there was nothing to kind of
prepare you.
Prepare you, anticipate this. So yeah, it was only until I looked back, I was like, damn, yeah, what the fuck? In terms of the first one that I really took in, I think I would have to say it would probably be Neo, For All We Know, and that came out about end of 2016, I'd say. So I think that was the first one. I was like, damn, no, I fuck with this. And that was like electronic R&B. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that was probably the first one that got to me. But in terms of when I realized, yeah, years later, it took a year. What about you?
Yeah, I think even in 2018 I was aware of it, because I'd started making a playlist in 2017 of all of the, like, of a couple of songs from each of the albums, and it was a long playlist. And I was aware at the time, I was like, this is kind of mad, like, because I was in Nottingham, obviously with you and a few other people. Shout out Manuel Bashford if you're listening. Yeah, so I was living in that house, and I think obviously you guys were all listening to similar artists as well. SZA was being played every day in the house.
Every fucking day. Literally.
So yeah, I think I was aware of it at the time that there was like a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah.
Happening. Yeah, for sure. Because like that was the year also that hip hop and R&B overtook rock.
Yes.
The most popular genre worldwide. So it's not a figment of imagination. Like, that was a year that like the stars just aligned and everyone dropped. And do you think there was a degree of, like, it's impossible to know, but do you think there was a degree of artists pushing forward their release dates and being like, oh, I need to get in on this, or like, because obviously they weren't all released in like spring, like, some of these were like later in the year.
I get, because we're talking about a year window, right? So I get what you're saying. I think my mind wasn't going there. Okay. My mind was more thinking about streaming.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, right, you can be a great R&B singer and never chart. And before streaming counted, that's how you charted. You have to sell. You have to get the physical copies. You have to sell. But the way people have always kind of digested R&B is, I'm chilling, I'm fucking, I'm like, do you know what I mean? Well, yeah, one of the two. There's no other. Yeah. I'm chilling, I'm vibing out, or I'm fucking. So unless it's like a serious banger, and even then, if it is, it probably won't be like televised or promoted that much because of maybe the nature of that song. It's probably not going to be charting like that. So I think R&B as a genre, I mean, yeah, if you're John Legend, whatever, that's always going to work for you. But yeah, I think as a genre, it's just by nature not as popular as other genres. It's not as catchy. It's not as like formulaic all the time, where it's like, yeah, cool, that's a radio hit. It's not the same, especially with this neo-R&B sound. Like, no one could have possibly known this was going to be a thing. So it's even a thing where, why would you even put money behind it? You wouldn't, really. Yeah. So I think with streaming was like, and a lot of these artists were talking about as well, like, a lot of them were like on their first albums, which is even weirder as well. Makes it even weirder. It's like they're like their third album, and then we just found out who they were. Almost all of them were on the first album, or they were caught on a feature of someone, and then it's like, okay, cool, we'll give you a project. So it's very. And I think that's what makes it so special, right? Because there isn't really an explanation you can give as to why this happened, or why all of them dropped at the same time. I think it's just one of those like dumb luck type of moments. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way of explaining it. But yeah, should we? Let's name drop a few more.
Yeah. No,
we've got a bit of a list here, so
let's do it.
Obviously, might as well start with H.E.R. Control.
Yeah. I mean,
which was probably the biggest album of that year, like
biggest album of that period by far, like undebatable, right? I think the volcano was already bubbling, and I think that just took it to another level, 100%, which is very strange, right? Because, and I think there's a story behind each of these artists, so I guess you can list off the names and I'll try and give some sort of backstory. But the thing with H.E.R, right? I know a lot of people were like, H.E.R's been around for ages. You lot were not fucking listening to H.E.R before Control. You weren't, and it's okay because
I was. I was actually listening. Go on.
Unless you were a fan of TDE and you heard her through TDE songs, but most people don't give a fuck about TDE outside of Kendrick, and H.E.R was not on Kendrick songs. You had to listen to J-Rock or Schoolboy Q or maybe Isaiah Rashad to get a glimpse of that. Most people were not listening to those artists, so you weren't fucking listening to H.E.R. S and Z are shit. You don't listen to that either. So it's all right. It's okay. You got her at the right time. No one was listening to her before that. So then Control comes out.
And there's so many people going to disagree with this. But
no, it's 100% true. It's 100% true. No one can tell me S and Z are good mixtapes. No one can tell me they listen to Schoolboy Q and J-Rock like that. They weren't.
I reckon some people are listening to Z or Z.
Maybe in retrospect. I know a lot of people did that. They got caught in that bait where it's like, oh my gosh, Control's so good. I need to backtrack. And it's like, it's completely different vibe.
It's a different vibe if you go backwards as opposed to going forwards.
She completely rewired.
I first heard her on the Chance the Rapper with the Chance the Rapper.
What song?
Their song on Z, Child's Play.
Oh, okay, yeah. Fair enough.
That was the first song I heard.
But even then, we're talking about when Chance just got to that superstar status, Colouring Book 2016, right? So I think, and even then, I'll say this, even when Control initially dropped, it wasn't as big until people sat with it and was like, oh shit, this is actually a good album. Control didn't blow up initially.
It took a few.
It took a while. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, Control's dropping tonight. Oh my god, it wasn't that. It was not that. It was like, oh, because obviously people heard Kendrick Lamar's very famous, right? So Doves in the Wind took off. Travis Scott was really famous. Love Galore took off. And obviously, do you know what I mean? So those songs kind of took off and people realized, oh shit, the album's good. And then it was very grassroots with that one, which is fine.
It took a while for Broken Clocks, Prom and stuff to be like, that's the song I'm going back to.
Exactly. It wasn't straight away. And that's fine. I like when albums grow on people. I think those are usually the best ones. So Control comes out. This is her first project as well. First album, takes off. Fucking amazing out the gate. And it's just crazy that's the case because, again, the way she was before, obviously, she dropped a couple mixtapes. There's no expectation for you to think, right, yeah, she's going to get it right this one. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be one of the most, referred to R&B albums for the next 5. What? No, how could you possibly predict that? When she's been on, she was signed to TD 4 years prior, I think. A long time. So if she was going to be a superstar, you would have thought, okay, it would have happened by now. For most people, it's not. I know a lot of people like to act like it takes time for all these artists. It doesn't. A good artist, probably 1 or 2 years, they're probably at that stage where it's okay, they're going to be stars. It doesn't take that long. So, I think that's a good one. Let's go for another example. But that was a very surprising one.
Yeah. Who do we have? Are we even going to give her the time of day today? I've put some asterisks in her name.
God, who's this?
We can bleep it out if we want to. Maybe we do that. I don't know. Sabrina Claudio.
Oh, oh my gosh! Oh, You know what? For one
It's
second, I
no pun
forgot
intended.
her.
It's about time we talk about her. Go on.
Do you know what's funny about that one? People love the shit out of that project. Like
100%.
hard. Like I think it's not bad. It's not a bad album. It's weird because it is literally all about time and it's fucking ridiculous. But it was good. Like she can sing. Obviously, the stuff that happened with her, all of that, like yeah. But when that album dropped, people were like, "Wow!" And I think that was her first.
There was two that it was about time and it was confidently lost.
Yeah, that was like her first couple projects within like 2016, 2017. Yeah, 2017. Like there was again, no one has ever heard of this person before. Never seen her work with anyone before. Nothing like that. So it's like you come out of this project, everyone's going
Confidently
crazy.
Lost was her first song, which is like that's her first song, and that's the one that blew up. And then she brought out 2 projects that year, and they both blew up.
Yeah, it's just insane. Like, because even the features on About Time, you can't say they brought a lot of clout. It's only Black.
Yeah, she had Black,
and he wasn't big back then. That's the only feature. It's crazy. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking strange. And obviously, the reason why her being cancelled was so popular because everyone was loving her off. Like everyone, and I don't know if we have her on the list, right? Because I don't have the list at hand. But wasn't Snow Allegra popping off around this time as well? 2017. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking ridiculous, isn't it? And the way I heard about her was through the More Life sample. So it was Do Not Disturb. Yeah. And I was like, that sample was fucking sick. Who made that? And I remember at the time, she only had like 4,000 followers on Twitter or something like that.
I've got... This is my moment, okay? Snow Allegra. I have been loving Snow Allegra. People, my friends, anyone, you can contact them. They will approve of this message. Since 2014, I have been loving Snow Allegra. Tried to get my friends to go to a concert with me, and they wouldn't. Back in 2014. And they wouldn't go.
How did you find out about her back then? What the fuck?
Mate, just... You know me, I find these people.
But yeah,
I don't know how I came across her. And I remember listening to a few like singles at the time, 2014, 2015. Then she came out with like an EP project, and then blew up in 2017, and everyone's like, oh, Snow Allegra. And then since then, she's just been on the up.
Yeah,
Michael B. Jordan music video. I know people love that. I enjoyed it personally.
No, it's a good video. But yeah, it's just crazy because I think that because Do Not Disturb is one of the biggest songs on More Life. Yeah. So I know a lot of people found out about her through that. But yeah, I mean, even like she wouldn't thank Drake for a sample now, but back then she was gassed. She's like, oh my gosh, thanks Drake. Like, yeah, and that's why I started listening to her. I know she had that song with Logic that I really like. What is that song? It's on Time. It's on Feel. Sorry, not. What is that song? Time is the sample. You must know this. I know you like Snow Allegra.
I can't remember the name of it. From Time. From Feels.
Yeah. What is that?
Sometimes.
Oh, yes. Sometimes it's a bagger.
Because then she had, what was it, Nothing Burns Like the Coal with Vince Staples.
Vince Staples, yes. Oh, man. Yeah. I listened to the album after that. I was like, holy shit. Again, there's nothing, like, okay, maybe it's Snow Allegra, fair enough, but you might be the only person. And you can take that badge and you can wear it like a king. But I don't know anyone who was thinking of Snow Allegra back then. And speaking on Drake, since we're on this, right? So... on More Life, a girl who was on 2 songs on that album, back to back, I think it was Georgia Smith. And indeed. Before this, yes, Georgia Smith was known for Drake covers on YouTube, fair, but she wasn't a global superstar like she was now. And again, someone who does covers on YouTube not all of them go on to be like worldwide sensations. They're usually just amateur artists. Like the only people I can think of. Really? Okay, Chloe and Halle, Justin Bieber, Georgia Smith. There's not many that like they do covers and they're so good. People are like, yep, I need to sign you and work with you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So when did you kind of catch the eyes of Georgia Smith? Because she's another one where she didn't have any projects before this.
Yeah, Georgia. I think it was Project 11, right?
Yes,
which was her like 2016 one.
Yeah.
I think it was the I know she had a song. I'm not going to remember the name of it. I know she had a song with Maverick Sabre, and that was the one I remember hearing. And then I went back and she had, found Project 11.
Project 11 was a big one.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that one.
And then like, what was it? Blue Lights and all those were kind of big. What was it, 2018, something like that?
Yeah.
That was her like big track.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Drake, shout out to him. I mean, he has a
insane ear
for bringing about people. He had Sampha on that album as well, didn't he?
Sampha as well.
4422.
Yeah. And then he had Sampha on Nothing Was the Same, 2013.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
I did not know that.
He had him on The Motion. It's crazy. Shout out to The Motion. But yeah, it's just I don't get how he does it every fucking time. And obviously Sampha dropped in 2017. I think I won't include him so much in this because obviously again Sampha was around 2013, so it's like okay, Sampha, people were waiting on Sampha. But let's keep going.
Yeah, we mentioned him, Sampha, obviously in Process 2017. I've heard him live and his voice is just as good live.
Yeah, South London talent. Love to see it.
Then obviously we had, the podcast's favorite artist, H.E.R.
Yeah.
She dropped a mixtape, surprisingly, self-titled, H.E.R. Was that when she kind of came onto your radar?
Yeah. So I think
again, isn't it? Drake sampled one of her songs, right?
Did he really? What song was this?
I'm sure he sampled her song.
No, I think she sampled his Jungle.
It
was the other way.
And then actually, before we move on from Drake, he also sampled a guy who brought out an album in 2017, but this was previously a guy called Gabriel Garson Monsanto. Yeah, sampled him on Nothing Was the Same. On that album.
What song?
I'm trying to remember which song it was. I can't remember which song it was. But yeah, he sampled him on it. And I was like, I recognise this song. This is Gabriel. But yeah, then he brought out Haradin in 2017. Garden for our Spanish speakers. I know we've got some fans in Colombia now, so
yeah, it's true.
I think it's Caliuchis. I don't know. I don't want to jinx it, but I feel like she's cottoned on.
Fingers crossed for Caliuchis. I'm making that hashtag.
But yeah, he brought out an album. Then we had like people like Mariba.
Yeah, Mariba still. She kind of popped into my radar when she first worked with H.E.R. for Never Story, and obviously I know she's part of the whole Spinach Village kind of troupe. But yeah, again, even H.E.R., Black, Mariba, Earth Gang. Yes, H.E.R. got signed to Dreamville. Fair enough. Earth Gang got signed shortly after, but nothing suggested at that time that Mariba was going to be a star either, because H.E.R. was still a small artist even though he was on Dreamville. And Earth Gang were even smaller pair of artists as well. So it wasn't like she had like mad clout against her name. And then here we are. Everyone fucking loves Mariba now. Like, again, 2017 is that pocket. You're not going to find another set of singers that all dropped within a 2 years period that are like it's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen again. I honestly don't. Like, yeah, I'm just gonna put that out there. Like, it's fucking insane. Like, it's, yeah. What do you think of
given that, like, if you look at the list that we've kind of come up with, like, at least like a very high percentage of these artists, this was 4 years ago, are still very relevant, and their next project are going to be very relevant.
Yeah, a lot of them aren't even on their third album.
Yeah, and
we're not even done.
You had like Khalid as well with his album American Team. Yes. I didn't listen to it a huge amount when it came out. I still haven't, but I know that was up there.
People do love Khalid.
Like top albums that year, and then obviously LMI with her out.
Fucking hell, yes, but did that come out 2017?
That was 2018, but the prep and the singles came in 2017.
You're right. And everyone thought she was American, as I remember that. Yeah. And speaking of British love as well, but actually before I get into that, what did you think of
Mariba?
Don't air me. Come on.
What? I was a fan of her. Yeah. I liked her. Well, I think after you put me onto JID, I then
Yeah.
went back and did my homework on Spillage Village and started listening to all their mixtapes. And then obviously came on to Mariba through that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of her. Her and Kalila.
I haven't heard of her.
Kalala.
I haven't heard of her. I'm not gonna lie.
You must have. I've definitely played you songs by her.
You probably have.
Kalila,
Sorry,
yeah. She dropped in 2017, Take Me Apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'll send you her after this, it's fine.
But yes, I was gonna say, speaking of British singers, right? So also we had NMA, who was an imposter at the time. But we also have Mahalia, who's also blowing up around this time. Again, 2016, debut album. No reason. This is a girl from like some random town in Leicestershire, right? Like no fucking reason to give any sort of attention to this girl. And now she is huge, like super huge.
Yeah.
Again, around that time. And by the time she was on her second album, done. Working with Burna Boy, working with Terrence Martin, all these superstars. Like, it's crazy. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, where with Mahalia, where did you kind of find her? Or when did you kind of catch on with her?
I first heard her it was in 2017, so I didn't know her. I didn't know the first project she brought out in 2016. But yeah, I think I came across her on Sober. Okay, which had like loads of like an acoustic version of like remixes and stuff. But yeah, that was the first song I heard her on. I was like, yeah, she's good. I liked her. I've never really like listened to her albums like that, but yeah, I can definitely appreciate her music. Really, really good artist.
No, you should, man. Like I'll say that's a shameless plug, but no, she's better than I thought she would be. Because I heard her on like all sorts of artists, right? Because she works with UK and American artists, so I've heard her everywhere. But in terms of like an actual album, no, she actually does kind of put it down quite well. So yeah, no, shout out to her. But who else we got on this list?
Obviously we said Division and Magic Jordan.
Yeah,
their albums out there. Yeah. Miguel with War and Leisure.
I'm gonna hold you up there. We're gonna get to Division and we're gonna get to Majid Jordan, but Miguel has been relevant for a very long time, right?
I just put it in as another big album that year.
Fair. No, but I think
not as like his blow up, because Kaleidoscope Dream and all that.
Okay, yeah, fair. And also he did kind of change because Kaleidoscope Dream is more. I did a review of that.
The old.
It's the old like
old
pop R&B rock. Yeah, it's very, very different. Whereas this one, he's definitely leaning in more to that sound. But I think Majid Jordan and Division. So Division, quite interesting because I reviewed that last month as well, my 31 day. And whilst I might not be the biggest fan of September 5th, I know a lot of people are a big fan of September 5th. I know a lot of people probably are like me and heard of them through that song on Views. Was it? I actually like that song a lot. What is that song? They have a song on Views, right? And it's with Pimp C, like random Pimp C feature, and them man. And I liked it. I was like, and I was really stoked to listen to September 5th because I thought, okay, this is a really good song. So that's when I kind of heard of them. But again, I didn't think they were gonna take off as well. Like, but then anything that touches Drake turns to gold, isn't it? So Faithful, that's it. Faithful.
Okay.
Drake Pimp C. So yeah. What are you a fan of September 5th? I feel like you are a fan of.
I liked it when it came out, 2017. Yeah. Like
2017.
The albums we're mentioning right now, like this is what I was listening to in 2017.
Yeah.
Like I was just rinsing all of these albums. I think I preferred as a whole project, I preferred Space Between by Magic Jordan.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed some of the beats on Morning After.
Okay.
By Division, really enjoyed it.
Okay, fair.
I think they've announced they're going to drop. Magic Jordan said they're going to drop this year. Because obviously Division dropped last year with Muse in Her Feelings, right?
People did not like that. Actually, they dropped a deluxe this year as well.
Called Amuse. I hate that.
Amusing Her Feelings. That's so funny.
Disgusting. Who else have we got? Brent Fires dropped Sunder Sun.
Yeah, Brent. Yeah, people were loving Brent back then, as they do. I mean, I think we spoke about it just before we recorded. Whereas with Brent, like, No, did we speak about it in the intro part? Yeah, you were. We did. Did we not?
You never know. Was it before we started recording? Was it after?
Who the fuck knows? But
We're
yeah,
always talking about music.
Brent obviously took off quite a big amount,
Yeah,
right?
big time.
Like big time. Like with the Sonder project and Sonder Sun.
And then with his solo project, yeah.
Yeah, like people were. I mean, because I heard of him through that fucking huge song that Goldlink had.
God, Goldlink.
Yeah,
Did they release in
20 all around me. I feel
like I'm the man.
That song, I can't believe. I love that song though. But that's when I heard him, and I was like, and I think obviously a lot of people probably did their research and picked him up through there. But again, like he's still relevant today. Like first couple projects, Crew.
Yes,
yeah, Crew. That's the one. So yeah, like I definitely did enjoy it back then because it was again vibey, innit? Like you're at uni, you're in your room studying, whatever, chilling. Like it works. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, a lot of people still took to him. It's like fair enough, to be honest. Like,
very like, what's the words? Like puts his feelings out there.
Yeah, and he's very, he's kind of
vulnerable. That's the word. A very vulnerable singer.
He's vulnerable. He's also like blunt as well. Like he seems like one of those guys. Like he's like a complete, like he's toxic as hell, but he's honest. Like and I think people like that aesthetic, and I think it's similar to Black as well, who again kind of came up around this time, like with the whole Spanish Village kind of crew. So Mariba and Black kind of came up similar time. Yeah, I think that type of aesthetic was definitely becoming more appealing to people because I don't think people really had that before as well. And again, both still super relevant now that we're gonna keep going through that pattern. I know we mentioned H.E.R briefly. I know people love to say I fucking hate H.E.R. I know they love it.
You've got an agenda on this podcast, haven't you?
But if people, that's the thing, you know what it is? It's like fucking a Pavlovian response or whatever. Like they hear one word, they're like, what? He dislikes her. And then their brain just fucking goes off. They don't actually listen to what the fuck I'm saying. So when I criticize H.E.R, right, it's not because of her singing. She is a fantastic singer. If anything, I'm criticizing her because of that. It's like, you are a fantastic singer. You've been around for about 4 or 5 years now. Where's the album? Where the fuck's that out? Of course I'm going to criticize you off that. If you're actually a genuine fan of music and H.E.R, then why would you not want an album? How are you going to win album of the year off a compilation? I'm sorry, that's never going to make sense to me. I'm not criticizing you. I'm still going to call you out. Like, because like, where's, like, you're one of the biggest R&B singers in the world right now. Where's your album?
Yeah.
That'll make no sense to me. But back to what we're saying, right? So she dropped H.E.R in 2 parts and then made a compilation in 2017. Yeah. So I definitely caught onto around 2017. Similar to another artist we're going to get to in a second. But yeah, so obviously H.E.R, fantastic singer. Like songs like Avenue, Let Me In, what's the other one? Losing. And obviously she did the cover of Jungle, which people liked as well. Like there was, and obviously no one knew who she was at the time, even though you could probably guess in it. But no one really knew who she was.
Is Jungle
so like, wow.
the one that has the sample that goes "Rock Me" real slowly?
Yeah.
Okay, that's Gabriel Garson Montana. The guy I'm talking about. That's him.
Oh right, okay. So that's
Drake.
That's not nothing was the same. That's If you're reading this, it's too late. But I get what you mean now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Drake sampled him on that.
Yeah. So obviously, H.E.R did a complete cover of Drake's song, and Drake sampled the guy you're mentioning right now. So yeah, fair. And obviously, Drake. If you cover a Drake song, people are gonna know about it, aren't they? Yeah. So yeah. But then obviously turns out she's actually a pretty fucking good singer. And I think some people actually like the cover more than the original, which is surprising. I am a huge fan of the original. I think it's a great song. But yeah, I mean, you can't, and don't be that little like pedantic cunt who's like, but Gabby Wilson's been performing, what's her name? I think it's Gabby Wilson. Something like that, Gabby. It's like, oh, she's been performing since she was a child or whatever. Because you didn't know that was H.E.R at the time. No one knew that was H.E.R at the time. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, just because you're a child star does not automatically mean when you're in your early teens or late teens, early 20s, you're going to be a star. You're going to be a fantastic singer. Those two actually don't correlate at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. So, no one knew that was H.E.R at the time. You had this fantastic singer who's kind of come out of nowhere again. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Similar, and one of the biggest songs that she has, damn near over 500 million streams, is with another guy who no one knew who the fuck this guy was at the same time. Daniel Caesar drops Freudian, one of the best R&B albums that year. It's like, this is literally, I think if you listen to this episode, you need to understand how much of a mindfuck all of this is, because all of these albums came out around the same time.
Yeah.
And they're all artists that we still speak of.
That song, Best Part, was probably one of the biggest songs of the year.
Yeah, I think it must have won an award, I think, or was nominated at the very least. At the very least.
Huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, Daniel Caesar came out of, like, again, to a lot of us, came out of nowhere.
Literally.
And just dropped Freudian, which was an incredible album. Yeah. Such a, like, well-formed, like, voice and everything about him.
Doesn't sound cheap at all. Like,
no, sounds like he's been around for a while when he came out with that.
Exactly. Don't get me wrong, it's very blonde inspired, but it's still pretty fucking good. Like, it's pretty, like, it's like, how does this happen? It's actually, because again, with good artists, even artists that you know are going to be good one day, they still have a couple years to kind of find their feet and be comfortable and get some sort of creative direction to drop their own type of sound. But these guys are all kind of coming with their first projects with a defined sound and blowing up. Like, yeah, it's really, it's such a mindfuck. And I think Daniel Caesar is the one that really fucks with me the most, because he came out so with a concept as well. First album, no hits or anything like that. H.E.R. wasn't the biggest person back then. Yeah, like Kali Uchis wasn't the biggest artist back then either. We can even talk about Kali Uchis a little bit.
Yeah,
like
because she was on Flower Boy, which was in 2017. And she released her own album around that time as well. Because I've been listening to Kali Uchis for quite a few years.
Yeah.
Let's give people some facts and figures. So her album Isolation was 2018. But yeah, she was on, because I remember she was on like the K Tronada.
Yes, she was. What, 99.9%?
No, must have been Bubba 2019. But yeah, she came out on, what was it, After the Storm with Tyler the Creator.
Yes,
that was the like big track.
That's a super song. Yeah.
But weirdly enough, the first song I heard her on was 2017 with Georgia Smith.
Okay.
A song called Tyrant, and that was the first song I heard. Really, really good song.
Damn.
But that was the first time I heard her.
Damn, I think the first time I heard her was Speed, which was on her 2015 album, Pavida.
Ooh,
so, I think, but even then, she wasn't, it was good, but it wasn't anything to think of like, oh, I'm going to write home about this. This is amazing kind of thing. She definitely hit her peak again around that 2017 point. And obviously Isolation is a fucking banger. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously that's out of the scope of this 2016, 2017, but she kind of hit her like popularity peak within that time as well. Another person to mention, how long have we been going on this?
We need to, let's move on after this one.
wait, we've been for a while. I'm going to check the time on this.
50.
Okay, cool. No, we could got some time. I think one person we have to mention, right? We can't end this episode without mentioning her, is Ari Lennox, right?
Yeah.
Like Ari Lennox is, fucking, the sweetheart of R&B at this point. Like,
how are you going to pronounce the EP? This is the big question.
Oh, what, Foe? Yeah.
Cool.
Foe EP. Yeah. So I think again, most people probably listen to this are fans of J. Cole, and I saw, obviously, J. Cole, and I had an argument with one guy on Twitter about this all these years ago. I was like, how can J. Cole say he had no features when this... I didn't know who she was at the time. I was like, but this Ari Lennox girl is on 2 of the best songs. And she's a notable contributor to these songs. She's on Change, and she's on the title track. And her vocals are adding a lot to this song. So how can you say this is an album with no features? Like, Ari Lennox does the whole bridge with J. Cole. She's part of the song. That's 100% a feature. Yeah. So I was like, what's going on? And the guy was like, no, but it's just not that much though. Shut up, man. Like, when people are getting fucking Grammys for saying yo on a song, like, shut the fuck up. Like, Ari Lennox was like, she was all over the album. So when I heard that, I was like, no, this girl sounds sick. Like, she's making these songs sound, because obviously without her, I think that album is not way worse, but significantly worse than probably what it already is. So so I was like, okay, cool, I can't wait to hear her. And then she dropped Phone at the end of 2016, and she had songs like Backseat.
That was the first song I heard. I was like, oh yeah, this is good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
song. And then she had Goat as well. And obviously she's cool. I thought, okay, cool. Like, she signed to Dreamville. I'm gonna keep tabs on you. But it was like, for a while, it felt like SZA was just going crazy, and everyone was looking at Dreamville like, okay, what's your female artist doing? Because they both had their singer, for lack of a better term. So they had their singer, and obviously SZA's finally taken off, and then Ari Lennox is still in this phase where it's like, okay, you've been signed for a while, you haven't really dropped anything.
2017 was the year she basically took off. Like, she didn't release anything that year.
Yeah, like anything at all.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so I thought, okay, like, and it's, like, for me, she at the time, and still is, to be honest, but she's so Erykah Badu influenced. Like, go listen to Erykah Badu's latest album, the New America Part 2, and then listen to Shea Butter Baby, and tell me that's not a very similar album. Do you know what I mean? So obviously 3 years later we get Shea Butter Baby, and boom, here we go. She's going off. But 2016, 2017, that's when everyone's like, okay, Ari Lennox, like, people started to take to her. And again, I don't know where the fuck J. Cole found her, but it's just, again, it's just what's going on. But Backseat, I knew Backseat for sure was always
Night Drive.
a banger.
I think
Night
those are the
Drive as
two
well.
that I knew, yeah.
Yeah, and Goat as well. So, like, she was already popping at the time, but it's like, again, where the fuck did she come from? Where the fuck did she come from, Javi? And
Don't know.
yeah,
That's the question.
it's just
Yeah.
Go on.
I guess, yeah, like a general question I have is like, will we see this again? Like,
Absolutely the fuck no. Absolutely the fuck no.
Will the stars align again in 2027 and we see, 7, 8, 9 artists just...
I think we've named more than that, have we?
No, but I mean, like, that we hadn't heard of them before. As in, like, right. Daniel Caesar, I guess, like, Mariba.
Sabrina Claudio, all that stuff. Yeah. Not for this genre. No. Impossible. It's too rare. It's too rare. And I think people need to appreciate how rare an occurrence like this is. Because even if you look at hip hop, even the ones that we love now that all came around in the 90s, a lot of them, their best album isn't their first album. Or their blow up wasn't their first album. How many albums did it take for the Roots to be famous? It was like their fourth one, Things Fall Apart. It took a while. Outkast.
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah. I think it's more than... I completely agree with you. I don't see it happening again. And it's about the context. Like we said right at the beginning of this main segment, right? Like the kind of drought, the late noughties, the early tens, like that was what allowed these new artists to come in and just like blow up, because there wasn't a huge amount that was going on at that time that was of like quality. So these artists that we've talked about, they're going to be around for another 5 years, maybe another 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely that we'll see that definitely in the next decade. I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening.
Because there's a market, like there's a very, not too saturated, but there's a proper market going on.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get 5 artists blowing up suddenly like that.
I don't think we're going to get it. I think a decade is too kind. I don't think you're getting this for maybe even 2. And even if you do, it won't be this genre. It might be a different version of it. It might be rap. It might be rap again. It might be something completely different, but it won't be this, because it's just way too uncanny. And it's not like we're talking about artists who are cheap or who are like here today, gone tomorrow, and they've fallen off or anything. Like almost every single artist we mentioned are still relevant.
Yeah.
That is yes, it's truly insane. It's truly insane. I think whether you like them or not, that's the thing. They are still relevant, and they still have a fan base. It's not like the consensus is, oh man, they fell off this shit. Not for many of them. I mean, the ones that people don't listen to probably got cancelled.
Yeah, so like 2 of them. Daniel Caesar and Sabrina, they were the 2 that
Yeah, so it's got nothing to do with that talent. Even Daniel Caesar's second album, I'm a big fan of it. I know a lot of people just
didn't listen to it.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm a big fan of it. So it's like, yeah, it's truly special. It's true. I think it's just it's fun to kind of like break down why that is the case and try to do the investigative kind of research to kind of look into why something like that could even occur.
Yeah,
but yeah. Obviously, I think a big part is Drake. We gotta give him his props there. Definitely Drake and definitely Erykah Badu kind of coming together in terms of their sounds and kind of
Gotta give
birthiness.
props where it's due.
Yeah.
And I guess out of these artists we've mentioned, like, who do you see as kind of leading them going forward? Like, and that could be a question of who's still going to be relevant in 5 years. Like, who of these artists is going to be 2021? We've got a lot of albums to expect. Like, SZA's supposed to drop this year. Ella May might drop this year. We obviously had Jasmine Sullivan just drop. Bruno Anderson are going to take over when they drop.
Okay. I think in terms of the new school,
yeah,
because Bruno Mars is always going to be Bruno Mars, right? So Jasmine Sullivan's always going to be Jasmine Sullivan, so whatever. But in terms of the new school, I think the ones people look at in the next 5 years, probably Georgia Smith, and forget what people say about her. People still look at her. I think if H.E.R drops an album, I think people look at her for a very long time, but she has to start. Like, I think now it's like you actually have to start getting the ball rolling. Like, people aren't gonna be with that EP bullshit forever. Who else? Oh fuck.
I forgot to mention Sid. She came out with Finn in 2017.
Fuck.
But do you know? Steve Lacy also came out with an album.
Fuck! I forgot about Odd Future.
It's okay.
Fuck.
We mentioned them.
Fuck.
Finn was a great album. Steve Lacy had a good album that year.
Some people say he's a better singer in the internet. That's what the streets be saying. What is your response?
Sid does have I've listened to a lot of live videos on YouTube of the band. Her voice is quite weak.
It is, and that's not a shame, but it's true.
And a lot of the I really enjoyed a lot of songs on Ego Death the first time I heard it. I was like, wow, this is great. I love her falsetto, but it's definitely propped up by the production and the tempering back of the instrumentals. Like, it's propped up a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
And even then, the mixing shit. Just saying. I'm just saying. Look, go on. But yeah, it's just insane. Obviously, Sid, you can kind of debate that one because obviously Odd Future's been around since start of the 2010s.
But that was fair enough. Breakout, right?
Yeah, but obviously Finn, obviously Steve Lacy, like, no one really gave a fuck about Steve Lacy until after Ego Death. Like, and even then, he wasn't really prominent on Ego Death. I think people just started to feature him and fucking worked out. A couple more people I'm just gonna throw off, and we probably won't get into it too much. So I think we mentioned her. I don't know if we did actually. Raven Lene blew up around this time. She still hasn't dropped an album. I'm so hurt by that because she's really good. Yeah, Moonshoes EP 2016.
Yeah.
Erin Allen Kane, she popped around this time. She was on Chance the Rapper's project, Telephone as well. So that as well. And then you had another woman called Jean Doe. Who was also like, it's like John's face, like, oh yeah, take me back. But yeah, she was also very prominent in the Chicago scene as well. I don't know where she's kind of gone around this time. But in terms of Raven Lene, I think people, if she dropped an album, I think people would listen to it. I think people would still be relevant for her because that's one of those weird ones. It's like her. It's like, what's going on? Is it label issues? Like, what's going on? But she had a lot of hype behind her around 2017 as well. So
she did.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy, man.
Quick question. Where do you see, this is kind of related, R&B, right? Where do you see Spanish language R&B, Spanish language pop going? Because to set the scene for people, right? Like, you've got, if you're including pop, you've got like Selena Gomez, you've got like Kali Uchis, who's just released an album at the end of last year in Spanish. It's becoming, as like reggaeton and Latin R&B, right, is becoming so popular. Like, it's obviously infiltrating with US music, and they're kind of like collabing. Like, you saw, who was it the other day? Rosalia, who was on the James Blake album. Who's she dating? She's dating like a rapper at the moment. Just like, it was so random. And anyway, she's making songs with a lot of US artists. She had a song with Travis Scott. Like,
people love Rosalia. Yeah.
Do you see like R&B?
Before I answer, actually, because I actually didn't get, who do you think will be the leader of the new school?
Okay. I think it depends how the next SZA album goes.
A lot of it does hinge on that, doesn't it? Yeah.
Because I think if it's a banger, it's like, well, it's certified 2 albums 4 years apart.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, she can do what she wants at this point.
Yeah. But just a quick note on that, I don't... with SZA, because I never believed in her to begin with, even though I love Control, but I never believed in her to begin with.
What did you not believe in?
Her talent. I'm sorry. Like, no. Have you heard Consideration with her and Rihanna? I didn't like that shit.
I've heard it.
I'm not a fan of that shit.
Some of my friends didn't enjoy what you had to say about that.
Yeah, because SZA, that's when she completely changed the way she sung. Like, it was like, you can't. What is the odds someone does that? Most people don't do that shit. So, I think I believe she's gonna get it right again with songwriting, production, all the.
Don't you dare.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if she's gonna get it right the way she did on Control again. Like, because I just didn't think, and nothing is. There's nothing to tell me that she's gonna do that personally. But if she does, then yeah, she's probably gonna be the GOAT in that genre. No joke. But yeah. So let me go back to your question, the Spanish stuff, right? Because I have been noticing this quite a bit. I think the reason why there's a demand for it is because there's a lot of Spanish speaking people in America. So like Miami, LA, stuff like that, New York even. So that 100% makes sense to me. Plenty of people speak Spanish. Obviously, Spanish people in Europe, they listen to a lot of hip hop or hippity hop, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, they have, like, especially places like Barcelona, right? They have notable hip hop scenes. So I think it can definitely, and obviously hip hop and R&B kind of ties in, right? So I think there's definitely appeal for it there. Like Spanish music is so, because I think it's like one of the most second spoken, or most, like, it's such a hugely spoken language. So, and I think because obviously hip hop and R&B become one of the most popular genres as well, it's just tapping into a whole market that probably do like Travis Scott. They probably do like that shit. But now it's like, oh, this is more homegrown. Like, and you've seen, what was that? Drake made a song with that guy in complete Spanish. Beyonce featured on that song with the Spanish guys as well. Can't remember that song, but it was a banger.
Wait, who was Drake on with? It wasn't with Bad Bunny, was it? Because he's like the biggest.
I can't remember
reggaeton at the moment.
I can't remember what the song was called, but I know he sang in Spanish for the whole song.
I hate that.
He did, and people loved it. So I think it will become a thing. I think it will be a subgenre, but I think it will be a notable subgenre because so many people speak Spanish.
Yeah, is it MIA?
I think it is.
Yeah, the song was Bad Bunny in 2018.
Yeah,
MIA. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it will become a thing. I think it already is a thing, but I think it will have its subgenre for sure.
Yeah, I think it will get bigger and bigger. To be honest. Super brave of Kali Uchis bringing out a Spanish language album.
I was pissed. I was so.
Did you listen
pissed,
to it? Even though you couldn't understand?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, like, come on.
I will eventually, because again, not all the songs I listen to are in English. There's a lot of songs I listen to that are like Japanese or whatever. So I will get to it, but like after Isolation, I was like, I'm ready, and then
there's some smooth songs on that album.
Yeah, so I think it kind of shows that's the thing. She wouldn't do that if there wasn't a market for it, right? So there's clearly a market for that where you don't need to give a fuck.
And the way she managed to get that song up on Spotify and like on the charts was crazy. Like a good 3 months after it dropped. Like I think it was in March. I was just seeing her tweeting every day, and it was like going up to like the highest charting like female Spanish language singer in history and stuff like that. She was breaking some records with it.
It's just Western ignorance, isn't it? You just kind of assume we all like the same things. People like because when we speak Western, we're really just referring to the English-speaking world. But people forget, like, there's a whole bunch of people who don't even fucking listen to music in English. Of course, someone drops a Spanish album, which is probably more spoken than English, I think. Of course, they're gonna fucking love that shit. And that's the thing. She doesn't need Tyler, the Creator fans to have a popping album. No. Like. So I mean, like, Despacito is one of the biggest fucking songs of, was it 2018, 2019? Like, no one, that's the thing, like, people, like 2017, that's the one. So like, you don't need an English audience to pop. Ever. Like, she doesn't need people like me to listen to her album to be fine. So that's why I'm very confident in it becoming like a subgenre. Yeah. For sure.
No, I agree. Definitely.
Yeah, I can tell you're a big fan.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. But yeah, I don't know. That kind of wraps it up.
Yeah.
Do we think? Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's something we can maybe touch on a different angle in the future because some of these it's interesting, right? But yeah, that's probably it for now. We've been going on for like an hour 43, so whatever. Let's
we
wrap
mentioned
this up.
the thing is we mentioned a lot of artists today. Obviously, there's no way we're going to get them all in the Shazam playlist. Whoever follows that. But what we are going to do is a bit like when we had our Valentine's special. We're going to make it. We're going to make a playlist. Based on some of the top songs from 2017 because it was a huge year. We've spent over an hour talking about it, so haven't decided on a name yet, but you will be able to find that playlist probably sometime this weekend on our Spotify account, where you can obviously also see our Spotlight series, you can see our Shazam series, you can see our Song of the Day playlist, and you can also see our world famous Now and Then playlist, where we pick a song from the last couple of years and then also pick a throwback song from the 90s, the 80s, whenever it was. Kick us off topic. What have you got?
Cool. Yeah, cool. My Now song will be actually, and I know I shaded them a little bit at the start of the episode, but it will be Come Over by Van Jess. I actually do like that song. It's a nice little opener.
Nice.
I'm a fan of it. My Ven song, so I think my Ven song will be Church for Thugs by The Game. I really like that song. Documentary's a good album.
Have you been listening to that recently?
I have.
You have? Okay.
It's probably going to be on my list. For my Spotify.
Respect it. Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. I'm going to go for my new song. My Now song is going to be Magic by Huss Kingping.
Okay.
I love the guy's voice so much. Quite like a minimalist rapper. The cover on the album is Naomi Campbell. Can't go wrong. Cool. Yeah, good song. People should check it out. It's really like low key, but like the guy's got a great flow. My Then song, I reviewed Machiavelli's album, Seventh Day. So White Man's World's one of my favorite beats on the
fitting.
One of my favorite beats on the album. Yeah, it's a great song. Really good.
Cool. As John mentioned, you can find our Now and Then playlist on Spotify. Like I said, SoundCloud will come and you can find us there on SoundCloud. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Vinyl Collective Pod everywhere except Twitter. TVC Pod on Twitter. You want to talk about, get involved in the conversation, send us a DM, send us a message, whatever. If you have a suggestion for an artist spotlight or something we said on the episode, vinylcollectivepod@gmail.com. More countries every week, John. I think we got Norway the other week. So
Norway.
Yeah, so we're expanding, more followers and all that. I think people did enjoy the Hannah V episode. Yep. So hope you have more of that coming soon. I think what we have coming up. Well, let me not even talk about what we have coming up. We've got things coming in it. Just tune in. We're gonna keep giving you steady bangers, and see you guys next time. Have a good week.
Peace.
We out.